A good family man, a community man, good citizen, always preaches about honesty and loyalty.
A boxing coach murdered just steps away from his son, killed by someone police say he once considered a friend.
And we are just, this is so hard to believe, 5 days away.
It is a sprint to the finish. Candidates pushing to gain ground in must-win states.
A gruesome discovery in Sonoma County. What we're learning about a body found at Sonoma State University.
This is Fox 40 News at 5.
And new at 5, a beloved boxing coach shot and killed right in front of his own son. A brutal murder leaving an entire community shaken. And tonight we are learning the man believed to be behind the trigger was no stranger. Hi, everyone. I'm Ty Steele. Thanks for being with us.
And I'm Nikki Lorenzo. The suspect was arrested in Fresno, hundreds of miles away from where the victim was killed in Marysville. That's where Fox 40's Karma Dickerson is live tonight. Karma, you spoke to friends of the victim. How are they doing tonight?
They're really struggling, Nikki, trying to make sense of what happened here. They say this was a good man, and this is hard to understand. If you can see just here behind me, this is both the door to the gym. It is also the crime scene. Additionally, it's a place where people have come to express their condolences, their sympathy, as they try to come to terms with what happened.
Doors usually open to all are locked after the man who ran the Hit Squad Boxing Center in Marysville was murdered.
For this to happen, oh my God. The community, this is a big loss.
Heartfelt messages written on the outside walls of the gym express love and regret from people whose words show they look to Taj Fields as a mentor, father figure, and inspiration.
Just qualified recently some of his students to go to a national boxing tournament in Kansas City coming up. That was his focus for this coming December, the first week.
Robert Ahu says his friend and coworker also used his kind mentoring nature at his day job, working with clients at Yuba Sutter Mental Health Services.
A good family man, a community man, good citizen, always preaches about honesty and loyalty.
It seems strange then that police believe he was killed by someone he, at least at one point, considered a friend. Taj Fields was just steps away from this doorway Wednesday night when a man got out of a car, walked up to him, shot him multiple times, and took off. Police say Fields' 8-year-old son was just feet away.
Is shocking and it's scary.
Marysville Police Chief Aaron Easton's sympathy for the boy is mixed with admiration.
I use the word heroic, and I think that's the most accurate term to use for this young man. He spoke with us and he gave us all the information we asked for to the best of his ability, and he really hung in there and did his best to try to take care of his dad after it happened.
Thanks in part to that information and that of other witnesses, police began looking into Roman Zarate as a suspect. Investigators say after he killed Fields, he stole a car from family members in Marysville and headed for family in Fresno. Just before 9 Thursday morning, Fresno police say they spotted Zarate and arrested him. They also reportedly found a gun nearby that Marysville police say matches the caliber used to kill Fields. While investigators believe the evidence in the crime adds up, the motive isn't so clear. Zarate had walked through these gym doors many times. He worked part-time at the gym and knew Fields for years, according to police.
It's going to be interesting to see, what led to what happened last night.
And police say at this point they have not been able to interview Zarate yet. However, based on some interviews with witnesses, they did come to the understanding that there were some problems between Zarate and Mr. Fields, the victim. Now, coming back out here to this memorial, as we can see, so many people over the last couple of hours have stopped by to pay their respects and give their condolences. But one thing the police chief did want to make clear is this is unusual for Marysville. This is a city that on an average year sees less than one murder, and this, in fact, is the first murder this year. Reporting live in Marysville, I'm Karma Dickerson, Fox 40 News.
Very unusual, Karma, and clear to see he was a beloved coach. Meanwhile, we're learning more about a body found in a shallow grave on a college campus in Sonoma County. Here's where they found that body, in a parking lot at Sonoma State University. A campus landscaper actually was clearing brush when they made the discovery. Investigators say the body was dumped recently because it is not badly decomposed, and the age and the sex of the body has yet to be released.
And they will go through every basically grain of dirt to collect hair fibers, hair samples, clothing, and do every little bit of trace evidence they can gather from the scene. It's a very slow, methodical search.
And the body was found in a remote area of the campus here, and classes are not held in this spot, but pathways or bike trails are nearby.
All right, let's talk some politics. It is crunch time on the campaign trail with just 5 days to go before you cast your vote for the next commander-in-chief. As the clock ticks towards Tuesday, both candidates, they're picking up the pace and calling for backup, trying to lock up every still undecided voter. Melania Trump is making her first solo speech since the summer's Republican convention in battleground Pennsylvania. She says as First Lady, she'll work to stop cyberbullying.
We have to find a better way to talk to each other, to disagree with each other, to respect each other. We must find better ways to honor and support the basic goodness of our children, especially in social media.
Her speech is the first of what Trump said would be 2 or 3 major speeches before Tuesday's election. As Hillary Clinton campaigns in the swing state of North Carolina, it looks like she's on pace to outspend Donald Trump. Clinton and her outside groups are slated to shell out more than $53 million on ads for the final week. By comparison, Trump and his supporters plan to air just over $30 million in ads. And a new field poll from UC Berkeley shows Clinton with a 20-point lead over Trump. That's here in California, but majority of voters say they have an unfavorable view of both candidates. This is extremely low when we're talking about statistics by historical standards. Staying with politics, U.S. Senate candidate Kamala Harris making a campaign stop in Elk Grove today, trying to boost Congressman Ami Bera's re-election effort. She's in a race with fellow Democrat Loretta Sanchez, which has taken a toll on her campaign fundraising. Fox 40's Lonnie Wong is live in Elk Grove. Lonnie, she's trying to make the most of her support within her own party.
That's right. As you mentioned before, the clock is ticking, and every candidate is looking at that clock. 5 days from now is when the election takes place. And here at Ami Bera's headquarters, they've mobilized volunteers. And of course, at this stage, it takes more than just volunteers. They're trying to get help from fellow Democrats as well, and that's what they have done today in order to help each other out.
How's it going? Hi, Ami. How you doing? I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
A campaign bus tour is nothing new, but there's nothing routine about Kamala Harris' stop to stump for Congressmember Ami Bera. Being state attorney general is not exactly a high-profile post, and while she enjoys a huge lead over fellow Democrat Loretta Sanchez, Harris hasn't been elected yet. In fact, Bera could use the help in a tight race against Sacramento Sheriff Scott Jones. Bera has angered hardcore Democrats in a relatively conservative district and by working with House Republicans.
I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I'm a pragmatic Democrat, right?
Harris is the darling of the California Democratic Party, which has endorsed her over Orange County Congressmember Sanchez.
I'm here for Ami Bera.
Here is the front runner who is unquestionably a Democrat, unquestionably in good standing with the party base. And she is out there giving him some backing.
And that's why we need Kamala Harris as our next senator.
We all will lift each other up.
Harris could use Bera's grassroots political machine. For the first time since election rules were changed in 2010, a major race has 2 candidates of the same party going head-to-head in a general election. Both Harris and opponent Sanchez have trouble raising big money for their campaigns. Last time around, Democrat Barbara Boxer and Republican Carly Fiorina gathered tens of millions of dollars from the national parties and super PACs, who desperately wanted to get a Senate majority. This year, donors are spending on tight races elsewhere.
You just say, ho-hum, we're going to have a Democratic senator, so why should I put money in there?
Perhaps that's why a bus tour in the last days of the campaign instead of expensive media ads. And politics being what it is, it can be strategic.
She's up there right now building herself a credit card with a guy who, if he gets elected, is going to feel gratitude to her.
A lot of political observers are saying that California is getting more and more blue, many more Democrats than Republicans, and that in the future, as far as statewide races go, you can expect to see more candidates of the same party in the general election. Reporting live in Elk Grove, Lonnie Wong, Fox 40 News.
All right, Lonnie, thanks. Meanwhile, her opponent, Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, was in San Diego today giving a speech on immigration reform.
Congress has failed to fix this dysfunctional immigration system because of politics, prejudice, and unearned complacency.
Sanchez says if elected, her goals are to make a path for citizenship a priority and end regulations that rip families of immigrants apart.
Meantime, elections in California are expensive. The battle between incumbent Democrat Ami Bera and Republican Sheriff Scott Jones is one of the most expensive races in the state. It comes in at third, actually, with about $4.5 million spent by both candidates. California political races are notoriously expensive. $91.7 million spent so far in this election. Meantime, picketers are holding a full-day demonstration to protest Sacramento County Sheriff Scott Jones. Here's a little bit of the action. Watch.
Scott Jones! Scott Jones! We don't want you! We don't want you!
The protesters, including those from Sacramento Black Lives Matter group, says Jones isn't fit to be sheriff, let alone become a congressman. Now, their reasons include Jones's alleged sexual assaults and his refusal to provide dashcam footage of the officer-involved shooting death of Adrian Ludd last year.
Adrian Ludd's family's taxes pay for the salaries of our deputies and the numerous lawsuits that have fallen on Sheriff Scott Jones' department, and we still cannot get basic information when an officer takes the life of our sons or anyone else that we love. I just know that we don't want Scott Jones in office. Anybody is better than Scott Jones.
Now, Jones has denied all assault allegations. Black Lives Matter members say they are planning one of the final protests of Sheriff Jones before Election Day. Fox 40 update for you now. The man accused of throwing a pie at Mayor Kevin Johnson will stand trial. Sean Thompson is charged with pushing the pie in the mayor's face in September. Mayor Johnson then punched Thompson. That's where you see those injuries in his mugshot. Today, a judge denied Thompson's motion to have his felony charge reduced to a misdemeanor. His lawyer says her 32-year-old client will use the trial as a forum to discuss Sacramento's lack of progress in helping the homeless population.
An 18-year-old from Loomis is arrested for reportedly running over his friend with his car. Adam Johnson is accused of doing this while under the influence. The accident happened last night in Roseville at the end of Painted Desert Drive. The victim was taken to a hospital and is treated for his injuries. Johnson is facing a DUI charge.
And a man suspected of setting a house on fire with kids still inside is in jail tonight. 19-year-old Tamira Bird was arrested yesterday on suspicion of arson in Modesto. 10 people were displaced by the fire on James Street in late July. Bird's girlfriend's 4 younger siblings were in the house at the time of the fire. He told investigators he wasn't near the house at the time. And continuing coverage on a senior living center fire that forced elderly residents out of their beds overnight. It started here on Arroyo Vista Drive in Valley High neighborhood. As Fox 40's Eric Rucker shows us, it all started with a piano.
Firefighters waded through water after a fire broke out at the Regency Place Assisted Living Center in South Sacramento. The fire suppression sprinklers quickly took care of the flame, but for first responders, the battle wasn't the fire itself. It was the smoke it created and getting the dozens of senior citizens living there out fast.
Mobility was a challenge. Even those we evacuated that didn't have any injuries, majority of them were in wheelchairs. And they are elderly, very fragile.
As smoke filled the halls and rooms, Sacramento City Fire turned to neighboring fire departments for more manpower to help the elderly men and women evacuate.
About half a dozen or so were actually taken to area hospitals.
According to investigators, the fire started around 1 a.m. and involved an electric piano player. Many of the residents were eventually able to go back into the rooms. The rest would be spending the night at hospitals, hoping no complications came from the smoke they couldn't avoid. In South Sacramento, Eric Rucker, Fox 40 News.
And still to come, bad news for the selfie-obsessed.
What you need to know before you head to the polls.
Our vote's important, but we're more than who we vote for.
Plus, longtime friends on opposite sides of the political aisle coming together to push for peace during this heated election season.
An explosive discovery, what police found during a traffic stop that prompted a call from the bomb squad.